To get at some late-breaking news we've been following for the last hour. 3 people found dead in an apartment on the northwest side.
At least one of those people found dead was a child. Let's take a listen to San Antonio police.
For now, just live on the show, would you mind recapping exactly what happened around 8:30 this morning?
Sure. So around 8:30 this morning, officers made this location for a welfare check after a relative of one of the victims grew concerned after not hearing from her from a couple of days. When officers arrived, they had to make forced entry inside the apartment. That's when the officer was able to confirm that there was 3 deceased individuals inside the apartment, an adult male in his early 40s, an adult female in her late 30s, and a child under the age of 10. And again, this appears to be preliminary information indicating that the male shot the child, shot the female, and then turned the gun on himself. And it appears to be a domestic incident.
Jennifer, do you have any idea how long the bodies had been there or when the shooting took place?
No, still under investigation as far as when this could have occurred.
And are neighbors reporting hearing gunshots at any time?
I can't confirm that information right now. It's still very early on. I can confirm that the last time the relative had heard from the female and the child was, I believe, on Friday. On Saturday, I apologize, on Saturday.
Is there any history with SAPD's involvement in the relationship?
I do not know any history, but we did do some research and we could not locate it at this time. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but we don't have any knowledge of it at this time, but it's still under investigation.
We saw a DPS trooper on the scene. Is there any reason for that?
I don't know why DPS is here.
So the relative obviously was concerned. That's what I'm wondering. Does she have other concerns other than the fact they hadn't heard from her? So did the relative have some kind of intuition that the domestic issue would lead to violence?
I don't know. I can't confirm that at this time, only to confirm that they had arrived here after growing concern not hearing from them since this weekend. And so that's when they notified police, but that's still under investigation.
So the relatives got here before officers?
Yes, and that's when they called police to do the welfare check and they made forced entry inside the apartment.
Did all 3 reside at the apartment?
I don't know if they all resided inside the apartment.
And you can't confirm the couple was married or just a
They
couple?
were married, yes.
Still married or formerly married?
Still married.
And the child is theirs, I'm assuming?
Yes, biological child, yes.
Last question. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay. You in Spanish? Yes. Does anybody need to move their
Okay, so guys out there, obviously this is an emotional situation. Officers I talked to before we just heard from the press conference and telling me, frankly, it was a sad scene to come to. And as you heard from Jennifer just a few moments ago, it all transpired around 8:30 this morning when they got a welfare check call. Went in, no one answered, and so they made a forced entry. And that's where they found the 3 bodies, the 2 adults and the juvenile girl. Now, as for the investigation, is still ongoing. Talking about what we saw, right now we're in the front of the apartment complex. We were actually at the apartment earlier. We have video from where we were standing. It was caution taped off. And when we were there, we saw some of the family on the scene. We saw members crying. We talked to neighbors. One neighbor in specifically telling us that he actually heard screams from earlier this morning. So obviously this is a situation we're going to be following throughout the day. Make sure to stay with us on air and online as more information becomes available. Guys, back to you.
Sad thing. Thank you very much, Max. Crash on I-10 on northwest side, putting at least 1 person in the hospital.
That crash also shutting down the eastbound lanes for hours this morning. San Antonio police still haven't released many details on the crash, but we do know that 2 vehicles were involved when it happened sometime around 6 this morning on I-10 near Hildebrand Avenue.
The condition of the person sent to the hospital unknown at this time. That crash was cleared about 8:15 this morning.
And as we start the week, there are some traffic closures you'll want to be aware of.
Stephen Cabasso says everything you need to know for this week's commute.
Well, the road work is expected to begin in and around the Alamo City, and we can expect plenty of that work to take us all the way until the end of March. So let's talk about what's happening here along US 90 on the west side of San Antonio. We have guardrail replacement that's actually been current, and that's going to take us to midweek, March 22nd. It begins overnight, so 8:30 in the evening to 5 in the morning is when drivers will see a single eastbound main lane closure from West Military Drive to Old Highway 90. Now, let's go ahead and take a jump over here to Loop 410 on the west side of San Antonio, where overhead sign work is also has been ongoing, actually. That should wrap on Friday, March 31st, the final day in March. But expect to see some closures along the northbound main lanes between 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. That's along State Highway 151 to West Military Drive. All right, let's take one last look here at I-10 in Kendall County, because we will see painting work that begins on March 29th. That should wrap pretty quickly on Thursday, March 30th. But again, it does begin at 9 in the morning, should wrap hopefully at 3 in the afternoon. Drivers will see a single lane closure in both directions from Scenic Loop Road to State Highway 46. If you want to stay up to date, you can scan the QR code that's now on your screen. That takes you to our KSAT traffic page. We have a full list of closures posted there, so know before you go.
Today, Crime Stoppers asking for the public's help finding the suspects involved in an aggravated assault near a convenience store. It happened last month just after midnight at a Quick Trip in the 7200 block of San Pedro. According to police, 2 men with masks got out of a black Mercedes and started walking in. The victims thought the men were going to rob the store, so they called 911 and drove off. The suspects got back into the vehicle, chased the suspects. Police said the man fired shots at the victims near the intersection of Bassey and McCullough, hitting their vehicle.
Crime Stoppers is also asking for tips trying to find the suspect of a liquor store robbery on the west side. SAPD says the person in the photo robbed a liquor store in the 7600 block of Culebra Road at gunpoint just before 2 p.m. on March 11th. Police say the suspect was stealing bottles of liquor and left without paying. A 45-year-old man tried to stop the person, but the suspect pointed a gun at him. The suspect left the store in a car. They've not been found.
San Antonio Police and Crime Stoppers asking for your help finding the person responsible for a deadly hit and run. It happened on December 26th last year around 7 p.m. in the 1300 block of Buena Vista. SAPD says 60-year-old Daryl Bergeron tried crossing the street when he was hit by a silver truck. He was pronounced dead at the scene, and according to a press release from Crime Stoppers, the driver of that truck drove east on Buena Vista after the crash. If you have any information about these incidents, you're asked to call Crime Stoppers. And once again, that number, 210-224-STOP.
The Bexar County Sheriff's Office is increasing deputy presence at Brennan and Southwest high schools due to recent drug and gun-related incidents. Those patrols started today. Parents can expect to see members of the School Safety Task Force for the rest of the school year. The task force is made up of support personnel and deputies from BCSO's gang, mental health, traffic, patrol, and organized crime units. A public safety forum will be held this Thursday, March 23rd at Benny L. Cole Elementary in Northside ISD starting at 6. Anyone with information about criminal activity can also send tips to schooltips@bear.org.
A suspect is in custody after a shooting near an Arlington high school. It injured 2 students. This happened sometime around 7 this morning at Lamar High School. According to several Dallas news outlets, the shooting happened outside of a building on campus. The school was placed on lockdown. Right now, Arlington police say the scene is secure. The condition of the 2 students unknown at this time.
Now to the courts and a woman charged in connection with the death of her son, baby James. The attorney for Delaney Chaidez is hoping to have her bond reduced. Today, a judge could rule on the motion. Delaney was arrested and charged with tampering with evidence and injury to a child following the discovery of baby James in the West Side trailer where they both lived. Last year, Delaney was sentenced to 5 years in prison on the tampering with evidence charge. She is waiting for her day in court on the injury to a child charge.
Still coming up this half hour, DeJounte Murray making his return to the Alamo City this weekend. Find out how the Spurs did in their second matchup against the Hawks later in sports.
Plus, the new city initiative to help small businesses and bring new life to downtown San Antonio after the break. If you walk around downtown, you might notice the new storefronts popping up on Broadway. Centro San Antonio is hosting the pop-up Primavera.
It is an effort to help San Antonio small businesses, and Max Massey explains it is a part of the Downtown 2.0 plan.
Yeah, so we started with one simple bag, which was this one right here, and then we kind of went into like this bag here and into a crossbody / fanny pack.
Meet Christopher and Austin. They started this brand back in 2020.
We dedicate our stuff to all sizes, all colors, all people, whoever you are, it does not matter. And we want to really make that clear for everyone as well.
And now They are one of 6 small businesses featured in this spring's pop-up Primavera.
I think us just being as, small vendors, small businesses, it gives us a chance to really understand what having, a storefront would be like. So it's fun, it's different.
This is Centro San Antonio's second pop-up initiative, and it comes after the first one saw immense success.
We had 7 small businesses, and collectively they made over $50,000 in the course of an 8-week program.
And take a look at all the handmade stuff here. So initiatives like this, the pop-up shops, they not only help these small business owners, these local entrepreneurs, but they really help the city of San Antonio as a whole.
We want to create a vibrant retail presence here downtown. We want every visitor, every office worker, every resident to have lots of options to shop local and support the community as they're walking down the street.
This initiative really falls under the Downtown 2.0 plan. It inspires people to live, work, and play downtown.
Grand opening is tomorrow. We're super excited. So definitely come out and check us out. Check all the vendors that are here from 5 to 7, some light bites, some drinks.
Max Massey, KSAT12 News.
It's another reason to head downtown. As if you need another reason, but there is another reason. I like all those reasons. Ooh, clouds.
Lots of them. Still cool. It's still going to be a cool day. The good news, we're officially going into spring today, yes, but we are going to see a warm up. If you're ready for some warmer weather, it is headed our way. Just not so much today, as temperatures are going to stay on the chilly side. The aquifers going down again, down 0.3 of a foot to 365.6. And in your pollen count, oak's still the problem. It's starting to jump back up after coming down over the weekend with some of the rain. Molds in hackberry also low. We've got some warmer weather and some more rain chances, too. We'll talk about it coming up.
Well, at least that's a good sign. Like that, it's a cloudy, gloomy, it's Monday.
But there was a lot of traffic this morning.
Yeah, like Monday.
Yeah. That's right, Justin.
Yeah, well, it was a Monday for sure on the roads, and we still have a lingering issue out there, guys, and I want to show you real quick before we jump into weather. We'll take you to the Chance Guide shot, and this is at I-37 and 410. We had an overturned 18-wheeler here earlier. It looks like they're still working on cleaning stuff up there, so that ramp is still closed. It's not causing a lot of traffic issues, but we did want to make you aware of it. If you're traveling there on the southeast side, that's where you may run into some slowdowns. It's right there at 37 and 410. So just a quick heads up. Also, happy spring. Well, it's not here quite yet, not technically. 4:24 this afternoon. We officially go into spring. Of course, we have our seasons because the Earth is tilted. The Earth's axis is tilted neither towards nor away from the sun today. So we get nearly equal amount of daylight and darkness at all latitudes. But it is spring. It is going to be underway this afternoon and has not felt like it as of late. It has been pretty chilly. We've had cloudy skies, and that's the case today. 52 right now. Dew point is at 36. We do have a south-southeasterly wind at 11, though, and this is going to start to usher in some moisture, which will bring some changes tomorrow. It will be sort of a damp day tomorrow. We'll get into that here in just a second. 49 in Kerrville, 54 New Braunfels, 56 Pleasanton, 57 Kennedy, 56 over in Gonzales. Pretty uniform numbers. Clouds tend to keep everyone kind of in check. 51 Rio Medina, 53 right now in Divine. Our KSAT 12-hour forecast, as you plan out your day, don't expect things to change much. It stays cloudy. That'll keep temperatures in the upper 50s for highs today. And then look for us to stay in the mid-50s as we go into tonight. We will begin to add in some small rain chances, though, after 10 o'clock. By midnight, we could start to see some drizzle, and that's because of that influx of moisture that's coming in from the Gulf of Mexico. And I promised some warmer temperatures. Here we go. 70 tomorrow, 80 on Wednesday, 83 Thursday. So that's the warm-up. It does happen, and we'll be above average even going into the weekend. Temperatures across the state right now in the 40s and 50s. It's pretty chilly, but I wanted to show you the national map because it is chilly just about anywhere you go. 46 Memphis, 47 in Atlanta. You got some pretty cold stuff up across the northern states. Really, the whole country has been kind of in this cooler weather pattern. It's been Florida that's been kind of the one exception, but even Miami is only at 71 right now. That could be warmer there this time of year. So let's look at what changes. The dew points rather low right now, but as we get into tomorrow, dew points start to jump up. So you notice dew points begin to jump up into the 50s and even 60s. So that becomes muggy. With that influx of moisture, we'll start to see some drizzle and light showers developing. Not so much today, but as we get into tonight, you'll see the model starts to show a little bit of that. So tomorrow morning to commute, likely a damp one. You'll see wet roads. It's not going to be important rain. It's not going to add up to a lot, but it's just that overall sort of damp situation. 30% chance of some of that light stuff. That goes through about noontime. And then by the afternoon, it may start to scoot east a little bit, and we could see a few breaks in the clouds, which is why we are forecasting some warmer temperatures tomorrow. We do also need to mention that by Thursday, we have a risk for a few strong storms. This will be Thursday night and the Friday morning. Storm Prediction Center has already outlined an area here where we need to watch the risk for severe weather, and certainly we'll be doing so here in the Weather Center for you. So here it is laid out in the 7-day forecast. 70 tomorrow, 80 on Wednesday, some morning fog and drizzle tomorrow, Wednesday, probably again on Thursday too. And then a 40% chance of some showers and storms Thursday night into Friday. It does clear out on Friday, and we'll get a pretty nice weekend before another small rain chance on Sunday, guys.
Thanks, Justin.
The Spurs playing 500 ball over the last 10 games, but now a huge challenge. We'll tell you about that coming up next. And the Brahmas are the ones getting gored these days. Hey, look who was back in town yesterday. Former Spur DeJounte Murray for an afternoon matchup between the Hawks and the Spurs. Spurs were without Jeremy Sohan, who left Friday's loss in the first half due to a right knee injury. First quarter, after Murray making friends again, he scored the first 2 buckets of the game at 8 in the quarter. Keldon Johnson always coming to play. The drive, the bucket. Hawks up 40-34 after 1 second quarter. More DeJounte. He scored another 8, led the game with 16 at half. The Hawks had 37 points from their bench at the break. Not a lot to highlight from the Spurs except Zach Collins with the big putback slam and Julian Champagnie coming down with the middle with some power late in the quarter. Hawks led 83-61 at halftime. We go to the third quarter, completely different Spurs team. They were down 24, but here they come. Outscored to just 1. Hawks led 103-100 after 3. Fourth quarter, less than 4 to play. Blake Wesley down paint for layup. Spurs up 115-114. Where's Larry? There he goes. I was quicker than he was, but he's still pretty quick. After the timeout, Wesley makes a 3 ball. There you go. Spurs up 4. Then cap it off the day. DeJounte blocked by Collins. We're going the other way. Keldon on the break finishes off the glass. He had 29. Spurs went on a 16-0 run to turn it all around. Here is your final from the AT&T Center. San Antonio beat the Hawks 126-118. Spurs are now at 19-52. The 24-point comeback, the Spurs' biggest of the season.
I mean, ultimately, we knew we could do better. 83.5 is unacceptable, and we hold ourselves to a higher standard than that. And, everybody stepped up.
We're all happy. We didn't want to go out like that the other night. So the bounce back, get this win is huge for us. We didn't play good, physicality first half, but the second half we picked it up.
We're trying to take advantage of these last 15, 12 games or however many we got and just, keep feeding off each other. Hopefully Jeremy's able to get back soon and we can kind of get this whole thing back rolling.
All right, we'll see how they're rolling on the road. Once again, there's that final for you, Atlanta and San Antonio. San Antonio now leaves town. They've got 7 out of 8 on the road. Tomorrow they are in New Orleans, then they're in Milwaukee, and then they're in Washington, and then they're at Boston. So got the work cut out for them this week. That is for sure. Hey, the Brahmas finally back in town this weekend. First time since their Week 1 opening game in the XFL. San Antonio entered their military appreciation game with a 1-3 record, winning on the road in Game 2, then dropping back-to-back games. San Antonio also changed things up with their running backs. Coach Jimmy Johnson moving up to the offensive coordinator position to try and spark the offense. Yesterday's game also saw quarterback Reed Sinnott start instead of Jack Cohen. Renegades in town. First quarter, new starting quarterback. Reed fires to T.J. Basher for the 6-yard touchdown. The 1-point conversion was good. SA up 7-3 after 1, led 10-6 at halftime. Fourth quarter, Arlington up 12-10, under 3 to play. Midfield, Jack Cohen in now. He throws it, but it's picked off by Keir Brown. That's Arlington's second interception of the game. They had 3 for the whole game. All right, here's a look at your final. San Antonio drops it again, 12-10 to the Arlington Renegades. Now 1-4. Next game, they are playing Sunday at the Renegades, 2 o'clock, and you can be able to see that game live right here on KSAT12.
All right. Well, there's more to come coming up. Next half hour, why school districts across the country are joining together to sue major social media companies.
And the latest on the investigation into former President Donald Trump, why he's saying he'll be arrested tomorrow. Next.
And did you know you're supposed to be sleeping at least 7 hours each night? That's according to the CDC. But for a lot of people, the recommendation is easier said than done. And throw in daylight saving time, and your sleep pattern might be even more abnormal. The good thing is there are a number of things to try out that can help you get the sleep you deserve. And we're going to tell you all about them today on the News at 5.
Police are still on the scene at that Northside apartment complex after 3 bodies were found early this morning. Investigators say a welfare call came in for a family living at the Winding Creek apartment complex. After no response, first responders made forced entry into the apartment and found 2 adults and 1 girl under the age of 10 deceased with gunshot wounds.
Police tell us they believe the man killed the woman and the child and then turned the gun on himself. Police say this appears to be a domestic situation. Former President Donald Trump claiming on social media over the weekend that he will be arrested tomorrow.
As ABC's Rena Roy reports, sits on charges by the Manhattan District Attorney for his involvement in an alleged hush money payment to adult film actor Stormy Daniels.
Another witness taking the stand today in a New York court in one of several closely watched criminal investigations into former President Trump. According to sources, longtime Donald Trump ally and attorney Bob Costello testifying before the grand jury today. Costello at one point represented Trump's former fixer Michael Cohen, who's a key witness in the case, testifying last week for a total of about 5 hours about the alleged hush money payments to porn actress Stormy Daniels shortly before the 2016 election. Cohen pled guilty and served prison time in part for his role in those payments.
In a letter to prosecutors obtained by ABC News, Trump's legal team asked for Costello to be allowed to testify, we're told, because they said that Cohen once told Costello that Trump committed no crime.
This after Trump posted on his social media platform over the weekend, claiming he'll be arrested Tuesday in relation to Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg's investigation and calling on his supporters to protest. ABC News has not verified those claims, and Trump hasn't said why he thinks he'll be arrested tomorrow. His own spokesman stated after Trump's post that they have received no notice from the DA's office. Trump has acknowledged paying Daniels $130,000, Cohen writing out the check 1 month before the election. Experts say that may have violated campaign finance laws. Trump's attorney says he paid off the porn star to protect his family. Former Vice President Mike Pence, who has grown increasingly critical of Trump, coming to his defense in an exclusive interview with ABC's John Carl.
Another politically charged prosecution directed at the former president of the United States.
Pence has called for any protests to be peaceful. In an email obtained by ABC News, the Manhattan DA told staff, "We do not tolerate attempts to intimidate our office or threaten the rule of law in New York." The courts and police starting to talk about security after Trump's calls for protest. Rena Roy, ABC News, New York.
More school districts around the country are suing social media companies, claiming they're responsible for a growing mental health crisis in children. Earlier this year, Seattle Public Schools began the lawsuit, saying social media companies were hurting students' mental health. Bucks County, Pennsylvania added its name to the lawsuit most recently. The lawsuit claims Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, and YouTube are linked to increases in mental, emotional, developmental, and behavioral disorders, including cyberbullying, eating disorders, anxiety, and suicide-related outcomes.
This is a demand for these companies to do better with respect to this egregious misconduct, with respect to targeting kids.
I wouldn't be surprised that by the middle of the year or the end of the year, that school districts all over the country are filing similar lawsuits. We may also see lawsuits being filed by the U.S. Department of Education and the Department of Justice.
Google, which owns YouTube, responded saying, quote, "We provide parents with the ability to set reminders, limit screen time, and block specific types of content." And Snap, which owns Snapchat, says it uses, quote, "human moderation to review user-generated content before it can reach a large audience," end quote, and said it works closely with leading mental health organizations.
If you missed it last half hour, Justin explained this to you, but it's like a quiz. We're going to test you and see if you were paying attention. Spring is here. Today is the vernal equinox, marking the first day of spring. Days start to get longer, temps get warmer, trees, flowers start blooming, as we have seen all over South Texas with the bluebonnets. It is the equinox. The world sees roughly equal periods of day and night. Seasons rise because the Earth tilts as it revolves around the sun. I believe that was 23 degrees. 23.5 degrees, bringing half the planet closer to warmth. Right now, it's the North's turn for longer, warmer days, while it's getting colder south of the equator. I mean, Australia is about to have their winter because we're about to have spring and summer.
Going into fall.
So we're waiting for that 4 o'clock.
4:24 to be exact. And David, you get a 100, my friend.
Thank you.
Pass the quiz.
I studied.
We've got cloudy skies right now as we look out over the city of San Antonio. Clouds are going to stick around today, but speaking of spring, we've gotten so many great pictures of the bluebonnets. This is another example, and I'll tell you, the grass looks nice and green too. The rain over the weekend helped. Yes, it was cold, but at least we got some rain. We need more, and there is a little bit more as we get into the forecast. This is from Valerie. We appreciate the beautiful shot of your bluebonnets there. Thank you so very much. As we look at live radar right now, there's not much rain out there. We do notice a few very light returns south and west of San Antonio. This is nothing more than a few sprinkles. So we're not looking for any really rain today. Tomorrow, though, we'll start to get some drizzle and a few more showers back in the forecast. Temperatures, 52 degrees at the airport, 53 Port SA, 48 Bandera, 50 right now in Comfort and Kerrville. In your KSAT 12-hour forecast, 57 at 3 o'clock. We'll top out close to 58 today, 56 at 7 p.m. And notice we start to add in some rain chances by midnight. Drizzle returns, could be a damp morning commute on your Tuesday. More on that and a chance for thunderstorms later this week, too, coming up in just a few minutes.
Thank you, Justin. UN officials are now saying the climate bomb is ticking following the release of its new climate report. The UN climate panel is warning that the world is off track to meet the goals of the Paris Climate Agreement. The agreement aimed to limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above average because as the world gets warmer, the impacts of climate change are expected to get more intense and harder to reverse. But global greenhouse gas emissions are at their highest levels in human history, putting that goal at risk.
Today's IPCC report is a how-to guide to defuse the climate time bomb, but it will take a quantum leap in climate action.
Current policies have us on a trajectory for warming for 3.2 degrees Celsius, and that would be catastrophic. And so any action that we do needs to be at the speed and scale to be able to meet the urgency of this crisis.
The report is also calling on governments to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by eliminating fossil fuels as much as possible.
China's President Xi Jinping on a major visit to Moscow to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin, a show of support for Putin amid the war in Ukraine. It comes at a moment when he is under intense pressure, just days after the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for him on alleged war crimes. ABC's Patrick Vernal in London with more.
This morning, China's President Xi Jinping touching down in Moscow for a key state visit. Vladimir Putin welcoming Xi at the Kremlin, the two leaders calling each other dear friend. The two-day trip, the strongest show of support from China for Putin since his invasion of Ukraine, a major boost for the Russian leader, isolated internationally and with his forces struggling on the battlefield.
Russia is out of friends in the world, so it's going to be very important to Putin that Xi shows some support by the time these talks are over.
The two leaders are presenting a joint front against the West, blaming it for the Ukraine war and saying the world is entering a new era. Xi's visit coming just days after the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for Putin for alleged war crimes, including the abduction of thousands of Ukrainian children to Russia. Moscow calling the move outrageous and opening a criminal case of its own against the ICC's prosecutor. Over the weekend, a defiant Putin made a surprise visit to tour the occupied Ukrainian city of Mariupol that Russia captured last year after devastating it. Putin on Saturday also travelling to occupied Crimea, trying to show it's business as usual despite the arrest warrant.
Western countries are watching closely to see if China will now supply Russia with weapons and ammunition, something the US says will trigger serious consequences for China. But this visit is a clear statement that Beijing backs Russia's vision of the war at a moment when it's trying to present itself as a peacemaker. Patrick Reevell, ABC News, London.
Still coming up, you can get your first look at the new streaming show Extrapolations. birds and the star-studded cast.
Plus, we're getting a behind-the-scenes look at the San Antonio Zoo's Butterfly House, a sneak peek of the new critter after the break.